He is the Prince of the Province's self-titled Shane Jones, Resources Minister. I call him the Minister of Digging It Up and Damming It Up. And Shane, just before we start this interview, I need to put out a bit of a qualifier. Will any skinks or lizards be harmed in the making of this interview?
The only skinks that may be harmed as a consequence of my rhetoric have two legs. They have a false ideology, otherwise known as political dribble, from the Green Politburo. Those are the only skinks that are in my line of sight.
Now, you've had a big night on the coast, and I saw you on telly last night giving it to some of the greeny skinks with your loudhailer. Is that common practice from politicians to drown out the protesters?
I was wary that the protesters would turn out, not only disrespect the coast, but try and undermine my confidence to give the government's position on mining. So I arrived with my own megaphone, and then I realised that the more that I picked on them, the greater the prospect that I would incite the coast to do something I'd be held responsible for. So we went into the hall to a standing ovation, well over 200 people. There was probably nigh on 300 when you counted everyone. A few cops were there, and I appreciate the fact that they popped along to make sure that my rhetoric didn't cause unnecessary harm. But look, mate, let's cut to the chase. In New Zealand, you and I are driving around on vehicles dependent on oil and gas. We are flying around New Zealand, and no one flies more than the Green Party lady who's currently under investigation. I can't think of her name, Darlene. So there's the hypocrisy. They don't want Kiwis to mine. They don't want Kiwis to enjoy resilience through using our own resources, but they quietly hide away when we bring in these rare earth minerals from China, from the Congo, from Brazil, where the environmental standards and the health and safety standards are vastly different from New Zealand. So I'm calling out this Hippocratic green dribble.
And you also got stuck into the Labour Party. You said they were embarrassed by their historical roots, because you went to Blackball, of course, to do this. That was rubbing salt into the wound. You said they were a metropolitan, identity-driven party.
Yeah, Labour no longer honestly, credibly embrace mining, extractive sectors, fishing, farming. They pretend that they can all do each other's washing in Auckland and somehow will prosper. They've turned their backs on their ancestral ideological roots from Blackball, and I went there to recover that legacy as a key part of New Zealand politics. Megan Woods had the usual vacuous nonsense about we need new jobs, we need sustainable carbon-reducing strategies. Name me one thing the woman did other than close down the refinery, get rid of oil and gas. We have fewer jobs. They opened up the gateway of immigration, so per capita, GDP-wise, Kiwis are poorer as a consequence of her stewardship. I suspect that she's in the departure lounge like Freddie the Frog.
You did make one telling comment, and I'm going to quote you again because it was very worthwhile, especially the coverage on 3 actually was excellent, led the news last night. You said, what is the point of being poor in paradise? And I think that hits the nail on the head.
Exactly. We use less than 1% of the dock estate. There's a portion of the dock estate called stewardship land. That's not dock land. That's land that should be made available for industry, not the playground, not the ideological sandpit for these people who are unwilling to make the trade-offs and actually contribute to New Zealand's economic resilience. And it's all very well stroking Papatuanuku and caressing the Earth Mother, but if you're going to do it from a position of impoverishment or economic uncertainty, you're going to wake up every day devoid of choices because you're still going to be poor. That's not the mission of the government I belong to or the party that has spawned me. Consequently, every opportunity I get, I'm going to stand up for farming, I'm going to stand up for fishing, I'm going to stand up for forestry, I'm going to stand up for mining, and as God is my witness, we are expanding mining in New Zealand to boost our economic resilience, and I don't care about these woke, riddled munchkins who want to fry eggs on solar panels.
So this is going to be a nationwide mineral bonanza, 10 significant mining operations. You are going to double exports to $2 billion, increase jobs from 5,000 to 7,000. That's mining ticked off. You are the Minister of Digging It Up and Damming It Up. When are you going to get stuck in and build some dams?
Well, obviously, we've got the 3 dams were built in Taitokerau, otherwise known as Northland. Once we have the fast-track legislation embedded, up and available. See, I was challenged as to whether or not mining should be allowed to make an application to the fast-track. Every New Zealander who has an enterprise, subject to the criteria, has a constitutional right to participate in this process. And I said to the coast, all of you here today, technically I should be putting all of your names in my diary, because if you have a meal with Shane Jones on the West Coast and it doesn't get in my diary, I'll make you famous, potentially for the wrong reasons.
It was a big night out in Hokitika last night.
Yeah, obviously they fed me up on venison sausages, venison steaks, the inevitable whitebait. We went to the Blackball Hilton. We had a beer or 3 down at the Working Men's Club. And I was told a young schoolgirl had hopped off the bus, and she looked around and she said, "Oh, my Lord, what are all these cars doing here in Blackball?" Generally, we only have 1 or 2 cars parked on the side of the road. There was nowhere left to park. There was nowhere left to sit. There was nowhere left to stand. It was a red-letter day for mining, the West Coast, and that historic township abandoned by the Labour Party, otherwise known as Blackball.
Well, Shane Jones, final comment from me. I hope you didn't eat and drink more than $500 worth. Otherwise, you would have to declare it as a gift.
It may come as a welcome surprise to you to know that the beauty queen, my wife, was with me. Bookkeeping matters are managed by my staff, and when my wife is with me, she keeps an eye on that my excesses don't get me into trouble.
Oh, you're on your best behaviour. Look, thank you very much. Always good to catch up with the Minister of Digging It Up and Damming It Up. Go well.
See you, mate.